Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
You and I are kind of similar. You may even be more good-hearted than me. I feel like you. Well,
but in our longing hearts, we're all the same.
Mutual respect and
Yes.
a boundary might have been crossed that you, right?
That's
So
correct.
just an example
That's a
of,
good example.
it is a great example. I appreciate that for
Yeah.
giving me the example to even work with.
Let's be the change we want to see.
I've never seen differences negative. I've always been attracted to and intrigued by it. But we're looking for how are we similar? How are we the same? How can we all just get along?
We are links in a chain. Unimportant.
Sir, what's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in from. This is Working It Out Across Generations. Welcome. If you have not been here, this is the show where we talk all things conflict, big and small. And being that we have a conflict resolution background professionally, we try to give some tips for reconciliation. I'm one of your hosts, Justin.
And I'm the other host, Dr. Lynn.
And I'm actually just going to let Dr. Lynn go straight right into it. So that's what we're talking about.
Hey, I hope you tuned in for this good one. Is there an age or a point in life when you need to stop blaming your parents for your problems? I happen to love this topic because I've been on both sides of it. I wasn't always a parent, obviously, and I did have parents, and I did have problems, and still some of them are lingering. And there was a good, I see you shaking your head when I said something.
Yeah.
Lingering.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. It's recorded. Yeah. But I hear you.
For the record, yes. Okay. I admit it. Hey, I'm work in progress always till the day I'm no longer here. So, but in any case, I really did. There was a time when I was conscious that I was blaming my parents for where I was or wasn't in my life and the kinds of things that they did. And it took a lot of work to really, first of all, start to realize that they were not just human beings, but people with their own problems that mostly really weren't resolved, worked out. I don't think when they were coming up, there was all of this psychology and self-help stuff that you could really tap into to look at why you were the way you were and what were the things that happened to you and what the effects were on you. And so they really didn't do that work. Plus, I had really kind of old school Black parents who you did not do or say anything against your parents. So for them to look at their own parents and to really blame them or to even think negative thoughts about them and the way that they were raised took a lot. I know that I heard my dad had a great relationship with his mom. His dad died when he was 13, so he didn't really know him. But I know that for my mom, she was raised by a single mom. Her dad died when she was 3, and it was rough. It was rough. And she would say some things here and there about how rough it was. I can remember her showing a picture of her when she was little, and it was just a really sad picture. And she said, yeah, because I was sad. I was unhappy as a child. So I think that they didn't do the work. And for me, I think in the beginning it was the same way, kind of like you don't do anything. But then I was like, the heck with that. It's their fault. And then I really started to work on, well, what can you honestly do? Because right now, this is where you are. This is your life. If you are this independent woman, to, all of the things you claim to be, then you got to own your own stuff. So today is pretty cool, I think, to talk about this.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not guilty of this too. I've probably done it on this damn show at this point, right, while I'm being recorded, right? So, I think that it's something I love how generational this is, because I've heard people of all ages blame their parents for certain foundations laid or things that were not laid within those foundations. And I think certain things are fair. You know what I mean? I think, as far as, I guess, certain like 101s of life that, young people, speaking, just for young people for a sec, but that we feel like maybe we didn't get enough of, as far as like sitting us down and like, this is how this goes. This is what you can expect. This is how you move in that. I think that there are a lot of people my age who haven't gotten that in a lot of senses.
Right.
And that only makes me think about, well, if that's our reality, like that's got to be somewhat true for our parents too. Right. And we've talked a lot about on this show. I love how you talked about your perspective and your growing up and what it was like being a kid back then, right? Because it seems like you guys were up to your own devices with a lot of things to kind of figure out on the go and on the fly, as far as like dealing with your emotions and what that looks like, the communication of those emotions, right? And those are very, very key 101 things that I feel like, you got to be able to sit down and talk about, but also, not have this like approach where we're just going to get all the answers out in one go. Right. And keep that door open for the different things that are going to come up as we evolve. Right. And so it really just made me think about a lot about what are we passing on generationally? What are we not passing on generationally? What are we not putting enough emphasis on? Yeah. How do we sort of mitigate those things a little bit? And I think it's just really important to at least start this conversation, because I think it's one of those things where this is such an energy thing where like the more you hold it, the more it's just going to hold you back and damage you. Like there's just a lot of charge to this conversation and to these dynamics. That if that charge is not handled well and with care and with, real genuine attentiveness, things can start to become destructive, whether that's behaviors of your own, whether that's relationships in your life sort of simmering out, right? Regardless of there being like an authority figure or not, like that could be translated into your friendships, that could be translated into your work life, right? it's one of those things where I feel like we really do have to not only talk about it and hold a lot of that stuff in whatever comes up, but we also have to be able to learn how to let go of some of those things, and not only let go, but also do the work to land on some of those triggering hard things a little differently, right?
Yeah.
And that's my thing. You know, I'm always about like, even if I can't let something go, how can I just come to a different landing consensus, like feeling with, and that's my approach, right? Which will overall lead into possibly, you know, releasing myself and others from things that I feel like I wasn't taught or whatever, right? And so, you know, I'm all about responsibility. I'm all about everyone owning their stuff. You know what I mean? I'm someone, you know, people who work with me personally and professionally will hear me say, you know, I don't want to hold more than whatever I need to, right? So I'm all about just the balance of it all, and addressing the charge of these difficult conversations, because we got to keep having them. You know what I mean? Like we're always evolving, we're always growing, and you know, it's gonna be one day where I'm a parent, hopefully, right? So like, I want to be able to, you know, be in the best spot possible. Of course, you know, like in the certain externals of life, like financially and whatever, right? But I also spiritually want to be able to do that. I want to emotionally be able to handle that, and I think that a lot of this conversation has to do with hopefully setting me and other young people who want to be parents in the future up for success. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's a lot more fun to just blame your parents, right? I mean,
it's easier. You know, I think it's definitely easier. It's definitely safer. It's a safer thing,
yeah,
you know, for sure. Yeah.
But the truth is that at some point, as adults, especially if we are not where we want to be in our lives, at some point we have to just take responsibility for moving forward, and then also take responsibility for the places where we blame them, but really we could have done something, or some of it might have been even for us to own. And now we're not talking about if you grew up in a household with abuse or abandonment, like we're not talking about that. But even I will say about that, if it's holding you back, then you do want to look at how you can do work to move past that or through that, right? Sure. So that you're not carrying that to the place of you can't do anything with your life, or you can't do the things you want to do with your life because this happened to you and it was awful. Guaranteed. My mom talked about the kinds of beatings that she used to get, and thank God we didn't get anything like that. But certainly, it is really difficult to grow up like that. I don't care how much people talk about, well, that's what made us stronger, better, and these kids, that's they need. But that's not the effect that it had on her. And on top of that, I remember her telling me, my mother never told me she loved me, right? Growing up. Eventually, later on in life, my grandmother was able to say that to her, but not growing up. And so what that does to you, I understand. And there were places that I would have loved her to own and do her work. It was a lot of damage done. There's no question. And at the same time, you do damage to yourself and others when you choose that route of it's all about what my parents did.
So I have a question. Do you think that adults in your time who have, or even in my time, right? You know, the people who feel like certain events, dynamics like that made them stronger or whatever, right? Do you think that's like genuine? Like they genuinely feel stronger in that, and like they've found strength in that, and it's like somehow empowering that they went through that? Or do you feel like honestly it's not like a cry for help, but like there's just an undertone of like, you know, either running away from it or like
Yeah.
Like, what do you think really when you hear from any age someone be like, those events somehow made me?
You mean like growing up
being beaten, or like even just not told, I love you a lot, like all those things. Do you think those are things that you genuinely can kind of take a new ownership over, or is it like a cry for help for I wish I had that?
I think people are different, right? And there are people who will say, yes, absolutely, right? These are the things. I mean, my personal pet peeve is, I wouldn't change anything because that's what made me stronger. And hey, if that's honestly what you feel, more power to you. But I think a lot of people don't honestly feel that. I think that there are things that really hurt them, and that they didn't necessarily make them stronger, but they're part of their story, right? And so what did they learn from those things and through those things? But would they change it if they? I think there are people that would love to change that was their circumstance, but they can't. That's the reality. They can't. So they recognize that. And I think some people adopt that saying, because what can you do to change it? Right. You really can't. And then I've done workshops with parents and going around the circle and asked about the way that people were raised. And there's a lot of pain in the room. And even though they feel like they came through it, there have been many who have said that it didn't make them stronger. They learned that they could withstand it and still go on, or they learned that they could withstand it, but that it damaged them enough that they're having problems in their lives because of it. So I think that it depends on the person, but I honestly do believe that it is very hard to move past and through the painful things in your life that your parents did. Your parents are it's your safety. It's your first line of love and safety coming into this world, into this plane, right? And their job is to keep you safe, to keep you loved, and to help you to grow into the most healthy and stable individual that you can be. And so when you don't have that, or when there's a piece of that really went left, like really went wrong, it has to have some kind of effect on you. And depending on you as a person, it doesn't make you weak if your siblings were able to plow through it, and and they're doing it, and it's been problematic for you, it's held you back. That doesn't make you weak. It means that the type of person that you are, it affected you in ways that it just didn't affect them, couldn't affect them. And everybody's journey is different, even in the same household.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate that answer, because I feel like my experience with my generation around this stuff is also depending on the individual. I don't think that we collectively, let me say this. I don't think we collectively just stay in the blaming of the adults that came before us, because I do recognize that we do a lot of that, right? We really do ask a lot of questions of, okay, well, this is how the world looks now. Like, this is how it's difficult for us. So, like, what did the generation before us do with all their time to think that this was like the way for us, right? I hear a lot of questioning like that, and I think that's fair questioning. And I feel like maybe I'm not looking hard enough, or maybe it just hasn't happened yet. I don't know, but I haven't really run into a lot of young people who let that stop them, and who let those things deter them away from stepping into their purpose, or stepping into just an unknown phase of their life, whether that's a new job or moving somewhere and starting anew. I feel like I've said this before on this show, that young people will tear down the building if it don't feel right, and we won't even have a blueprint for what feels right, but we know that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So we're going to tear that down and at least come together to build something that feels better than what was there before. And I think that that's something we've gotten from generations before us. Absolutely. The hustle, the grind, like, please, we're seeing young people who are millionaires now. We're seeing young people who are managing teams of people older than them in companies. These are real things happening. And I feel like that's a pro that we've gotten out of this. And even though not everyone has been in, like an abusive household and whatever, right, there was still a cost to that. And I think I wonder just what that cost was for anyone, you know what I mean, if you've been through that kind of dynamic or not. And so I know for us, we definitely appreciate the hustle that you guys have instilled in us, and the hustle that you guys have as generations that have come before us. But the question has always come, like, at what cost? And I think that because we're moving into a world and forever moving into a new world that's just more open to, different things and more opportunities and more lanes are being created. We're just making the choice to say, like, where am I going to go with this? So I feel like we definitely do some blaming for sure, 100%. And if anything, I think we don't stay there too long and it becomes more of like an acknowledgement thing. Like, I acknowledge that I wasn't taught this when I wish I was, or I acknowledge, like, I wish this information was taught to me in this way, right? And yet, okay, like, as you said, what am I going to do about it? I can't go back. Right. Can only go forward. So that only encourages us to take more action over, just not repeating the same problems that we do as a society. So it's really, really interesting. Again, I really haven't been around too many that young people that have really, like, deterred or been more nervous or anxious to step into something. However, it's definitely something that we keep in consideration when we're in certain environments and whatever, where we need to communicate, but we didn't get those communication lessons well and all those things. We don't stay in that place too long because we know we have a stake in the game. So, yeah,
I mean, I generationally, I hear a lot of it. It's funny, when we were coming up as like 20 in our 20s, that was a conversation like around the table, kind of what our parents did to us or how they were, who was close to their parent or wasn't. And I think that we really did spend time on that, but I don't think it was in a way where we were also sharing, well, how are we getting through it or how have we done it? I still see friends of mine who are really still feeling and acting from the consequences of how they were raised, what their parents, the mistakes that their parents made.
I will say that shows up too. That definitely shows up in my generation too.
Yeah. Well, early enough to have time to really move through it. But if you're in my generation and you're still held back by that, then I really do feel like this show is for you. You really do need to. It's not too late. You're still here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying that it wasn't traumatic, but when you're when you're at my age or even 10 years younger, I think you're past the point of being able to get away with still blaming your problems on your parents. You can talk about how it has affected you. There is no question. I think that you're not letting folks off the hook. It's in us. It's the trauma is deep within our body. So understood that you are still feeling it. But if it is what has weighed you down to the point of really destruction to yourself, right? That we have health problems that come from within, really. Yeah. And that is a part of holding on to blaming your parents for the things that are happening and didn't happen in your life. And one thing about life, I can tell you, as much as there is opportunity for you to do, even within all the mess that there are certain milestones that you reach. There are certain points in life where you can't go back. Mm-hmm. You've lost that particular opportunity. Doesn't mean you've lost every opportunity or new opportunities that could be for you, but you've lost that particular opportunity. And so you really do need to get on it and make sure that you don't miss the next. I think that, yeah. And I think that that's what I see too many in my generation that are still allowing themselves to be held back from the problems. I mean, and we have more access to therapy. It still isn't, still isn't the thing that, right? It still isn't as popular. It's so much more though. I can remember certainly growing up, I didn't have anybody in therapy unless they were deemed like really messed up, right? And just needed help that not the normal person would need. And now you have that access. And so I think that we have to, generationally speaking, we got to own that. And one more thing, a lot of our parents are gone. Like, so even if it's true, even if you want to confront them still, my goodness, that time has passed as well. Right. And so you really do. I implore us to find the ways to let that stuff go.
Do you think there's a certain like age or status of life or chapter you have to have completed to like where it's like, all right, go, let it go. Like you did this, so let it go or whatever.
I don't think it's that you have to.
Because I just feel like my generation, we struggle with the fact that we're going to die unfinished products. And we work
really?
I think we struggle with that. I think we work very, very hard to reach some of these certain points of life.
Right.
And with those things, like we know you can't be like the same version of yourself when you get there, right? However, I feel like sometimes that's like I feel like there's a way to do it. I think there's some times where that's absolutely true, and then I think there's some times where we're possibly like not honoring some of those things or some of those formative times. So like, is there a certain age? Is there a certain are there certain accomplishments you have to have? Or are there certain whatever that you've seen or noticed where it's like, all right, you have this, so you have to let it go. There's no more even just talking about it. No more reopening that door for yourself. Like, what do you think about that? Or is it something that sticks with us kind of forever in a way? It's just a matter of how do we treat the problem?
Yeah,
overall.
I think the sooner you can do it, the better. Yeah. First of all, because life is about relationships, and if you're looking for a relationship, a romantic relationship, right? If you're still blaming yourself on your parents, that's going to find itself into its way into your relationship. Most certainly, if you become a parent, I think you really have to face the way you are treating your life and going on in your life based on what your parents did to you. So I do think that it may not be a number, but it may be a particular point in life, right, where that definitely needs to be done. And it's interesting that you said that you think your generation struggles with leaving here unfinished products, whereas my generation, not my generation, but my parents, for sure, they modeled that when you became an adult, like whatever, 21, whatever, you was grown. And like, you were done. You were finished with growing.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. So it's interesting that both sides of things, and I think that my generation has accepted the fact that you can continue to grow and should continue to grow, rather than that's it, no more. I got here, I reached here, and I'm done.
Yeah, I feel like I see a lot of young people who maybe bought a house or have an apartment, moved out, right? Like and have a car, right? Like they make these big plays in their life, and they feel like, well, what do I have to complain for? What do I have to feel bad about? Whatever. And I think part of that question just came from, just like, what does honoring or acknowledgement look like? And then really, what does the blaming look like? And I think that we started to talk a bit for sure about some of those differences. But please, if there's anyone out there who is struggling with this, or you've struggled with it yourself, let us know, right? Because we really are just really encouraging that people just live their best life and live their most honest life. You know what I mean? Owning and honoring what's happened to them, and then some of the great things that have come out of that, and finding a healthy balance within holding both, and still finding drive through both. So I think this has really, really, really been great so far, and I want to talk to my young people real quick a little bit, and we're going to get into just 3 ways that you can stop blaming your parents. Just 3 general ways that you can stop blaming
Parents, you tuning in? You've been waiting years to hear this?
Probably. You guys have your own section, so don't wait too long and don't be too happy. But here we go. First one, we have, sorry for the novel in front of you, but turn your focus inward, right? I mean, I think these are very, the reason she's laughing is because these are my notes right next to it. And I told her, do not put my notes up there. That's not for them to visually see. They don't need a book or, whatever up here on their screen. No, fully not.
Okay.
But absolutely, like, you got to turn that focus inward to at least just recognize your part in it, right? Ask yourself, where does the anger come from? Where does the sadness come from? What's the disappointment about? Yeah. And once you get some of those answers and you get some of those balls rolling, keep them rolling. And I think part of keeping them rolling is recognizing in everything, it takes 2 to tango. I'm telling myself that all the time. And I'm telling you, it's helping me at least just to remember, and also just remind myself when I can't remember or don't remember, or when the emotions are too much for me to really be able to tap into that, that there's just multiple components to this, that it's not just a one size fit all or a end all be all kind of thing, right? And so I think turn that focus inward. Also be careful of how you do that, right? We don't want to like harm ourselves in any way, whether that's physically, emotionally, or even just with the words that we're saying to ourselves. I think that's really, really important. The language that we use with ourselves, our diction, right? So definitely turn that focus inward and do whatever you can to find your part in it, but also, just honor the truth and hold the truth, as opposed to letting your brain circle into these just deep thoughts that'll just honestly waste your time and energy. So yeah, I think there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think that you've got to ask yourself some questions.
Yeah,
I mean, so many of us, and so if we young people, I know a lot of you are sitting with anger, and you really got to look at that and figure that out for yourself. So I agree.
Yeah, and then the question after that just becomes, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah,
what am I going to
say?
Do about it?
You're gonna, but
Absolutely.
I think this is so important. I'm glad you said that, because honestly, the generations of I'm cutting them off, I'm no longer speaking. I mean, that to me is scary. I think that we got to invest in our relationships, and unless they are still doing you harm, like not within yourself, but themselves coming for you and really doing you harm, I think you gotta start looking at, how do I release this anger other than getting them out of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, your parents are learning too. I think this is really important to, remember and remind yourself of. This is everyone's first go at this life thing. You know what I mean? Like we're learning on the fly. And I think that especially in the most, heated and hurtful of times, that's really important to come back to. It'll recenter you. It'll recenter your ability to just approach the conversation, whether that's with yourself or with a parent or authority figure in your life. I think it's just really important to do that. And I know for me, it was very difficult when I first realized, like, my parents aren't, the way that we think of superheroes like Spider-Man and, like Wonder Woman and Captain America and all those kinds of, powerful superheroes, right? They are superheroes in their own right, but it's in a different way, right? And so I think, again, just really important to give some of that humanity to them too, as they already, as the authority figures, already have so much to do and so much to manage, and so much to take care of, and so many people to check up on, and so many people to probably take care of as well, and all these things. It really humanizes the conversation and allows people to feel like it's honestly safe to get it wrong, as that's something that we honestly should expect out of each other when it's our first go at this life. It doesn't matter how many times you've been here spiritually, right? Like it's everyone's first real go at the external living in this world. And so let's just be a little more graceful with each other. It doesn't always mean be easy on each other, but I definitely think it means, just be open to, if you can't in that moment, getting to a place of giving grace.
Yeah, I think you've got to really understand that pain can come from doing things in love, and that people can grow, parents can grow and look back and realize the mistakes that they made. And so if you can give that grace that they were learning at the time or didn't know at the time, and they're still trying to connect and be in your life, it's important to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, this was a tough one for me to come up with and just put down and whatever, but I think it's just the honest truth that as a young person, you got to accept, even with the privilege of a village, right? No one's coming to save you. Everyone's got their own stuff, down to your parents, down to your grandparents, everyone has their own hand that they've been dealt, that they have to deal with, regardless of the intersections that can come within that. And I think, as someone who it really did take a village to raise, I will say that. I won't say that these people like saved me. Like I had to do some of that work too. You know what I mean? I had to bring myself to a place of understanding the difference between giving aid and being of support rather than saving. And so you definitely want to be someone who honestly wants that challenge of taking it on for yourself, right? And all of that, because I'm a firm believer that you come into this world yourself, you're going to leave this world yourself. You only have yourself at the end of the day. And so it's important to just develop that relationship as much as possible, and not do it in a way of, well, I don't need help, or I did all of it myself. We've all had help along the way. No one has gotten anywhere that they've gotten to without some help, whether it was in a way of aid that they wanted or not. Right. And I think that it's one of those things where you're better off at the end of the day, remembering that, I got me, I can take care of me. And that's a challenge, but it's a challenge that'll drive you to be able to handle any and everything that comes in your life. So
yeah,
that's what I feel.
I think people can support you, love you, and catch you but saving you, that's your work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so parents, sometimes we allow our children to blame us, right? We take that on. And so we want to talk about 3 ways to help your kids stop blaming. Know what it is you need from your parents and ask for it, right? So
I like that.
ask them, like, what do you need from me? Is it an apology? And please, young people, make it something they can do, because they can't go back and do it differently.
That's true.
Right? They make it something they can do. And so what do you need from me to help you to move on is a valid and a beautiful question from a parent.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have much for that. I like the make it something they can do. It's more fair.
Right.
It's just more fair that way. Like, bro, I can't go back. So
Right.
at least point me in the direction that you want me to go in, and I'm open to that. You know.
And make it something that doesn't mean they're continuing to carry you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Give responsibility. Give action to it. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. The next one is be prepared to move on with your life either way.
Yeah, that's important.
Yes. And
That's
this is my note, make a plan. So hey, you may get what you asked for, and you may not ever get it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ask more than once, but at a certain point in time, right, you got to release that. And you've got to move on. What are you going to do with your life, with the rest of your life, so that you can move forward in spite of the pain, the damage that they've done, right? Hey, make that plan. But also, in that plan, leave room for them to turn around and be able to, I know people who said, look, this is what I'm looking for. This is what we cannot be as close as you or I would like until you do this. And it was an apology usually, right? Until you own up and apologize, right? And it didn't come right away. It didn't come in that moment, but they kept standing their ground while continuing to grow and move forward in their life, leaving the door open, though, for that parent to finally say, yes, you got it, you're right, and to give them what they want.
Yeah, I've seen this in action before, and I think it works both ways. When you make the plan and you set those boundaries, you know what I mean? And I think that it's really up to everyone, right? But also parents just to be able to be open to that. So the question, I think, becomes really just like what matters at the end of the day. So if you can answer that and you come to a conclusion that your relationship matters, okay, let's get to work then. Yeah. So
Absolutely. And seek help. I wrote this big.
Yeah, damn.
Seek help, please, because you're here to fulfill your purpose. And one thing for sure, your parents may not have been anything that you wanted them to be, or they hurt you tremendously, but you got here because of that. And you got here to live a life of purpose, to help other people, to share your gifts and talents, and not to be held back from how you were raised. So seek help in being able to fulfill that, to do that, whether it is professional help or family, because sometimes other family members can pull your coattail like, hey, I get it. Yep, all of that has happened. You're right. But what are you going to do, though, to make sure that you are still living the life that you were born to live? They can hold you responsible, or sometimes they can give you insight into why your parents were like that. I know that has been helpful to me.
Me as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what other family as really about. Maybe it's your friends that you're seeking help from. Maybe they've gone through the same kind of thing, or maybe they do see you in a light that you don't see yourself, and they've been the ones to sit there and support you through all of the talk about the problems that you have because of your parents. But now they're ready to sit you down and say, hey, what you gonna do? You gotta move forward with your life.
Yeah.
You need those kinds of people to help you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also, you guys heard me say before, I'm an advocate for seeking help. You know what I mean? I don't think help is a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of strength. And obviously look for the safest space that you can go to and be in to get that help. But it is okay, and you will get answers out of it, right? So it's really just up to you to take that step, see it as something valuable, right? Whether you get the answers you want or the answers you need. I think the answers you need are always more important, but you're going to get answers of some sort, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. Help's okay. Having had help along the way is okay. Acknowledging that, honoring that, that's okay. That's still strength. You're still strong for that. You still played your part in that, but we can't do it alone.
Yeah. Having wished I'd had help along the way. I had no one to talk to as a child.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. No, I did not have.
That's
I
tough.
had that village in numbers, but not in relationship.
Yeah.
That people really making sure that I was okay and talking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very. It just didn't happen.
Well, I can say that at least as someone you said you've been on both sides of this, right? You've done a great job of not only giving us numbers, but relationships in our village too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that only came from you having recognized, okay, I didn't get that, but it's my turn now, and I'm going to make it different for my sons. And I think that that's just such a strong thing to do and a hard thing to do. And I just wanted to help you recognize that we see it that way.
Yeah.
Like we feel it, we see it that way. And thank you for doing it differently and breaking the cycle. It's not easy to break cycles.
No,
right?
it's
We're not saying any of this stuff to say it's easy, right? But it's possible. We've all shocked ourselves in some way by doing something we didn't think we could do. And I think that there's a lot of stuff within these conversations that will shock you about yourself when you start doing some of that introspection.
Yeah.
So do it in a safe environment, a safe manner, and watch as you step into the light, what comes out of that.
Yeah, I love the village that I surrounded you with, and
I do too.
I'm so grateful for them. But I want to close out because we are talking about parents and their children, and I want to close out with a special tribute to a family that so many of us grew up on, and we had a loss in that family, and that is Malcolm Jamal Warner, who passed so suddenly and shockingly a couple of days ago, who was our Theo, right, in the Huxtable family, and the kinds of conversations that they had, both funny, right, but real, and just how much love and how much old school relatability there was too, but owning as parents, owning the mistakes they made, but also teaching their children to be the best that they could be and go on with their lives. I know Claire Huxtable would be like, well, honey, I hear you, but you got to do something else with your life. You got to move forward and do better, because that's how we raised you. And so I just want to give honor to Malcolm Jamal Warner. I am blessed to have met him in person when I was one of the 5 finalists for Nick at Night's Funniest Mom in America contest. And it's interesting. I know I saw him out there laughing his heart out at my stand-up routine, and also his comments to me on my set were one of total enjoyment. Like, he really enjoyed it, and also just feedback to keep going. But afterwards, I got a chance to talk one-on-one with him, and I can remember how encouraging he was of me. And I felt I was talking with just a real person, somebody who could have been one of my sons, to really tell me to keep going, keep at it, and what a great job I did. And I remember that the last thing that I said to him was, I'm going to work with you one day. We're going to work together. And he said, I would love that. I mean, what more would I have wanted or needed to hear from someone who, at that point in his career, he was big, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And he was just human. So, so as parents, I know we would love for our children to be like that. And as young people, it would be great to know. I'm sure he had great parents, because he turned out absolutely wonderfully. So Malcolm Jamal Warner, we miss you, but thank you for the legacy that you left.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode of Working It Out Across Generations and you want to see more, please tune in to e360tv.com, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. It's the Trajectory channel on e360tv.com. Also, Facebook, you want to check us out there at Working It Out TV show, and YouTube as well at Working It Out Across Generations. And if you want to send us any love, show topics, comments, any personal stories you want to share in relation to whatever episodes we've done, please hit our email at Working It Out Across the Generations at e360tvlive.com. You know what we say: every like, every follow, every share, every view, every comment, truly every piece of engagement means the world to us.
Yes.
We are about small is all and building towards something that is bigger than us. So you guys are helping us do that every week, and we really, really appreciate all the love. Another thing that we say to you guys is conflict is here to teach you something about yourselves. So go out there and find out what that is. I'm Justin.
Hey, and I'm Dr. Lynn.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
With a name, but in our longing hearts, we're all the same. We can make it happen, turn things around. Let's